Cole Maddox took a bite, tearing into the toasted bread like a man who hadn't eaten in days. Layers of flame-grilled fungus and green vine crunch filled his mouth, sharp and savory. The rooftop air was still, the skyline behind Saela shimmered in the heat, and for a brief, glorious second, all he knew was the taste. Then her voice cut through the quiet like a blade. "You barbarian!" He blinked mid-chew. Saela Vireth stood up from her chair, her orange skin catching the sunlight, the thin silver arcs of her ceremonial headset glowing with silent alarm. The sandwich in her own hands remained untouched. Her slitted eyes widened, not with rage, but with something colder. Disbelief. Cole swallowed slowly. "What?" "You ate before I gave the blessing." Her voice was low, but it trembled. "You consumed sacred food before the bondmark invocation." The rooftop garden went utterly still. Even the guardian beast, Nari, the small feline with a thick striped coat and gold-plated collar, froze between their plates, as if understanding the gravity of what had just happened. Cole looked down at his half-eaten sandwich. "Saela, I didn't know. I thought we were just having lunch." Her jaw tightened. "That wasn't lunch, that was the declaration meal. I chose the hour, the ingredients, the sequence of courses. I prepared it myself, and you bit into it before I could speak a single word of the ancestral rite." "I didn't realize it was ceremonial," Cole said, pushing his chair back. "We've shared food before. You never said—" "I wore the correlace of first offering," she snapped. "You said it looked cool. I lit the sandstone blessing candle. You said it smelled like cinnamon." She pointed at the quiet creature watching them. "And I brought Nari. She is not a pet. She is a witness." Cole's throat tightened. "Wait, you were declaring us?" Saela turned away, folding her arms over her chest. Her ceremonial robes shimmered like molten glass in the heat, every gold-threaded line echoing ancient symbolism he never quite understood. Her voice was softer now. "Yes, I was declaring my soul's intent before my ancestors, before the guardians, before you." His gut turned. "I thought we were—" He stopped, ashamed to finish that sentence. "Casual?" she offered, glancing over her shoulder. "Friendship with benefits? A novelty on your planetary tour?" Her expression cracked for the first time. "I should have known." "No." He stepped around the table, his boots thudding against the stone tiles. "You should have known that I don't take you lightly. I've bled for you, on Marath's Ridge, on the Black Spiral. I stayed behind in that collapsing port on Eno Delta because I couldn't bear to leave you. And still," she said coldly, "you bit into the sacred food before I could speak the words that would bind us." "I didn't know," he said, quieter now. "I swear, Saela, I thought it was just food." "It never is, not on Nyviran soil," she said. "Not with correlace on the skin and guardian beast at the table. Not when the blessing fire burns behind us." Cole turned, and only now noticed the faint blue glow dancing in a bowl behind Saela. What he'd mistaken for ambiance was in fact the flame of declaration. It sputtered quietly, waiting to be acknowledged, and now, left unspoken. He rubbed a hand over his face. "I screwed up." "Yes," she said, "but there is one chance, one path to restore what was broken, if you're willing." He looked up. "Anything." Her eyes studied him carefully. "There is a trial, the ritual of Second Flame. It is dangerous, mostly symbolic, but some die attempting it. We must cross the desert beneath Tyros IV, survive its illusions, and reach the Heartfire chamber. There, if we share breath and emerge alive, the rite can be renewed." Cole didn't hesitate. "When do we leave?" Saela narrowed her eyes. "You'd do this? For a ritual you dismissed with a bite?" "I'd do it," he said, voice hoarse, "because I want the chance to earn you. Because if I'd known, I would have waited, I would have bowed, I would have let you say every word." Saela's posture softened, just slightly. "We leave at moonrise. Bring no tech, only water and intention." He stepped closer. "And Nari?" Saela looked down at the cat, who blinked slowly, then let out a quiet approving sound. "She comes with us," Saela said. "She was the only one who followed the rite." Cole smiled faintly, but the shame didn't leave his eyes. He didn't touch the sandwich again. The twin moons of Tyros IV hung like hollow eyes over the desert, pale and cold. The planet's surface shifted beneath their boots, fine rust-colored dust flowing in sheets across cracked stone and skeleton rock. A howling wind sang a low song of judgment. It wasn't a place meant for pilgrims. It was meant to test them. Cole adjusted the scarf wrapped around his neck and stepped forward into the dunes. His gear was stripped to the basics. No nav systems, no comms. Just his breath, his body, and a glass flask of moisture recycled from their ship's coolant line. Behind him, Saela walked in silence. She wore different garments now, layers of black and deep crimson woven from Tyrosian sunsilk, a fabric that shimmered only in full starlight. Her ceremonial headset had been removed. In its place was a rough cord around her brow, marked with a single flame-shaped bead. Nari padded beside her, paws leaving no prints in the red sand. They hadn't spoken since the shuttle touched down. The first illusion came with the wind. Cole stopped short. A figure stood ahead, right in the path. A boy, maybe 12, with dust-white skin and eyes like shattered glass. He said nothing, just lifted one hand in warning. Cole stepped forward. "Don't," Saela said behind him. He glanced back. "What is it?" "It's not real. The path of witness pulls from memory. You'll see things that aren't there." "I've never seen that kid in my life." Saela came to stand beside him. Her voice dropped. "Then it's what your mind thinks you've failed." The boy didn't move as they passed through him. His form dissolved like smoke. Cole didn't speak again for miles. Hours blurred together. The sun never rose. Tyros IV's sky remained a churning violet dome, lit only by those lifeless moons. Dust storms screamed past them in bursts, tearing at their clothes, forcing them to hunker down together beneath outcroppings of dead stone. In those cramped silences, Cole could feel Saela's breath against his neck. She smelled like copper and crushed citrus. Her skin was warm, even when the wind turned their bones cold. Eventually they found the stairs. Carved into the face of a mesa, the stairway descended into darkness. The steps were slick with old moss and mineral rot. Saela led now, torch in hand, Nari close behind. Cole followed, one hand on the damp wall to steady himself. They reached the first chamber, an open cavern, its walls etched with flame sigils that shimmered as they passed. At its center, a pool of black liquid reflected no light. "This is the binding mirror," Saela said. "If we are not truly aligned, it will reject us. You must kneel." Cole stepped forward and knelt without hesitation. The stones scraped his knees. Across from him, Saela lowered herself in unison. The liquid in the pool rippled. "Now breathe with me," she said quietly. "Match me. Inhale, hold, release." He did, again and again, until the pool began to glow. Images began to rise from the surface. Memories, moments. Cole saw himself as a child, hiding under a table while his parents screamed. He saw his first mission as a pilot, the heat of plasma on his back as he dragged a wounded officer from a burning ship. He saw the night he first touched Saela's hair, shimmering, soft, and wild with static from the cryo chamber. He looked up. Saela's eyes were closed. Her expression was calm. "What are you seeing?" he asked. Her voice was thin. "My sister," the last words she spoke before the fold gate collapsed. She said I always wanted to love someone the wrong way. She was right. No, she wasn't. Saela opened her eyes slowly. "I've never wanted anything more than I want this," Cole said. "Even if I never understand your rights or your ancestors or the sacred sandwich." Her mouth twitched, just slightly. "I still want you. All of you. I'll walk to the end of the galaxy for the chance to deserve this." She touched his face. Her fingers were warm, despite the chill. The liquid between them pulsed once, then split. A pathway opened inside the cavern floor, leading deeper underground. The air shifted. It smelled like fire and metal and memory. Saela stood and offered her hand. He took it. They walked side by side into the final chamber. The Heartfire room was alive. It pulsed with orange light and sacred heat. At its center, a small platform hovered, suspended over a slow-churning pit of glowing magma. The platform was just wide enough for two. Saela turned to him. "This is the breath-sharing," she said. "We kneel, we breathe as one, and if our bond is true, the flames will not consume us." Cole didn't wait for instructions. He stepped onto the platform and knelt. She followed. Their faces were close now, foreheads nearly touching. The heat around them pressed in, unforgiving. Sweat beaded at his temples. "Now," she whispered, "breathe with me." Their lungs moved in unison. Inhale, hold, release, and again. Inhale, hold, release. A current passed between them, soft at first, then stronger. The flame below flickered upward, curling like a serpent. A ring of light rose around them, circling their bodies in gold. Cole's heartbeat synced to hers. He felt it, not just in his chest, in his blood, in the space between them, like a thread being drawn tight. No room left for fear. The platform glowed. The chamber trembled. Their bond was sealed. The world had no edge, not when the bond was forming, not when the platform hovered above sacred fire and breath moved in tandem, not when Cole felt something ancient, not chemical, not metaphor, but spiritual, flowing between them. Saela's breath was no longer just air. It carried memory, weight, sorrow. He felt it enter him, her loneliness, her exile, her pride carved down to brittle edges by a culture that praised honor but punished vulnerability. And she felt his fear of never measuring up, of always being just a little too late, too careless, too human. The rituals, the expectations, the legacy he didn't carry. He could never give her ancestral pride, only himself. The fire quieted. Their bodies were lit by its glow, suspended in golden stillness. Saela opened her eyes first. "It's done." Cole exhaled. "I feel different." "You are." She tilted her head, voice almost reverent. "The bond has marked you." Cole glanced down at his arm. His veins glowed faintly gold, like soft wiring under the skin. It didn't hurt, but it hummed, like a memory being written into flesh. "What does it mean?" he asked. "It means we are no longer separate." Her gaze didn't flinch. "What I feel, you will feel echoes of. What I suffer, you will sense. When I speak to the ancestors, your name will carry beside mine." He was silent for a moment, then said, "So I've become Nyviran?" Saela shook her head gently. "No, you've become ours. Something new, something that doesn't fit either world, not human, not Nyviran, but bonded, witnessed, eternal." He studied her, chest heavy with awe and something close to fear. "And what does that make you?" Saela stepped forward, closing the space between them. "Changed," she said simply. "I swore I would never bond after my sister died. I blamed her for losing herself in love. But now I understand. She wasn't lost. She just stopped pretending." Cole swallowed. "You're not afraid?" "I am." She paused. "But I want it anyway." A long silence passed. Then she leaned forward and pressed her forehead to his. "We can't go back," she whispered. He nodded. "I wouldn't want to." The air shifted. The flame below quieted into a soft ember. The floating platform began to descend slowly, carrying them toward a new chamber that shimmered with silver stone and glass vines. The final step in the trial was not fire. It was return. As they stepped off the platform, Nari was waiting. The cat tilted her head, eyes bright. Then she walked toward Saela and pressed her small forehead into Cole's shin. It was the first time she'd touched him. Saela's voice broke softly. "She accepts you now. She knows the bond is real." Cole knelt, one hand reaching to stroke Nari's soft fur. "Then we're ready." Saela looked toward the tunnel ahead, toward the path that would take them out of the depths and back into the sky. Saela stepped forward, closing the space between them. "Changed," she said simply. "I swore I would never bond after my sister died. I blamed her for losing herself in love. But now I understand. She wasn't lost. She just stopped pretending." Cole swallowed. "You're not afraid?" "I am." She paused. "But I want it anyway." A long silence passed. Then she leaned forward and pressed her forehead to his. "We can't go back," she whispered. He nodded. I wouldn't want to. The air shifted, the flame below quieted into a soft ember. The floating platform began to descend slowly, carrying them toward a new chamber that shimmered with silver stone and glass vines. The final step in the trial was not fire. It was return. As they stepped off the platform, Nari was waiting. The cat tilted her head, eyes bright. Then she walked toward Saela and pressed her small forehead into Cole's shin. It was the first time she'd touched him. Saela's voice broke softly. She accepts you now. She knows the bond is real. Cole knelt, one hand reaching to stroke Nari's soft fur. Then we're ready. Saela looked toward the tunnel ahead, toward the path that would take them out of the depths and back into the sky. The wind shifted the moment they emerged from the cavern's mouth. The burning skies of Tyros IV hadn't changed, still streaked with copper clouds, still dry enough to scrape the breath from your lungs. But Cole Maddox knew the world had changed anyway. Because he had, so had she. He reached the ridge first, boots grinding against scorched stone, lungs aching. Behind him, Saela Vireth climbed in silence, her crimson robe tattered from the descent. Her hair was wind-tangled, her golden eyes hard. She looked less like a ritualist and more like someone who had survived a war. At her side, Nari walked with silent grace, the guardian beast's striped body moving without a sound. The cat's presence felt heavier now, more than a witness, almost a sentinel. Cole didn't speak, but his hand twitched. He was ready for anything. They weren't alone. A half-circle of tribunal enforcers waited at the far end of the plateau. Each one wore shimmering violet armor and hoods lined in caste markings. Their boots were planted in perfect symmetry, hands resting on ceremonial staffs. At the center of the formation, a black palanquin floated silently. Draped in gold-threaded silk and humming with anti-grav, it housed only one figure, the judicant. Saela Vireth stopped walking. "They brought the high seat," she said. Cole Maddox kept his voice low. "Is that as bad as it sounds?" Saela nodded once. "They only summoned the judicant to strip a name from history." Cole stepped slightly in front of her, but she reached out and touched his wrist, guiding him back beside her. Saela said quietly, "No. We face them as one." The air itself seemed to still. The judicant's voice rang out, amplified, but emotionless. "Saela Vireth, you return from sacred grounds marked by unapproved union. Speak." Saela's voice was clear. "I return with a bond sanctified in flame. The Rite of Second Flame was completed. The fire accepted us both." The judicant replied coldly, "You stand bonded to an outsider. A human without caste, memory lineage, or sacred record. Did you defy the inter-tribunal knowingly?" "I chose Cole Maddox with full awareness," Saela said. "We walked the desert. We endured the illusions. We reached the heartfire. He shared breath with me. The bond was witnessed by flame and guardian alike." One of the enforcers stepped forward, raising a staff embedded with faintly glowing sensors. He scanned Cole's arm, then announced, "The human carries the bond trace. Confirmed. But it is unstable. Foreign." Cole took a step forward. "If you want answers, ask me directly. I'm not invisible." Another enforcer turned sharply. "You will speak when addressed, outsider." "I'm speaking now," Cole said, his voice firm. "I didn't grow up with your rituals. I didn't memorize ancestral chants, but I walked into the fire anyway. I followed Saela because I love her, not because I understood everything, and I stayed because your sacred trial showed me who I want to be." The judicant's tone did not change. "You mock Nyviran rites with your presence." Cole shook his head. "No, I bled for them. I suffered for them. I let your planet's fire burn my lungs and your visions rip through my mind. I earned the bond. I didn't mock anything. I proved I belong." The judicant turned attention back to Saela. "You chose heresy. You violated caste boundaries. You ignored protocol and offered sacred rites to one outside the line." Saela did not blink. "And the fire accepted us. That is older than your protocol. The flame chose him." The judicant said, "You will lose your status. Your name will be stricken. Your birth line will no longer carry weight. Do you understand the cost?" Saela's voice never wavered. "Yes, I understand." You may not speak at the lineage assembly again. You may not bear offspring under caste registry. You will be exiled. Saela lifted her chin. Then exile me. The judicant said, so be it. Your name is erased from the Song of Lines. You carry no record. You belong to no caste. Cole reached for her hand. We'll make our own record. She squeezed his fingers in return. The judicant's mask turned toward Cole. And you, Cole Maddox. You are to depart Nyviran soil immediately. If you return, the bond will not protect you, Cole answered evenly. I didn't come here for protection. I came for her, and I got her. That's enough. One enforcer stepped forward, placing a silver seal on the ground, Saela's caste emblem. He shattered it underfoot. It was done. Saela turned without ceremony. Cole followed. The guards did not stop them, not with words, not with force, not even with stares. Their silence was louder than shouting. Cole walked beside Saela, his shoulder brushing hers as they crossed the final rise. His body was still aching from the rite, but inside something was steady. When they reached the freighter, a battered old courier ship with stolen jump drives and a name scrawled in rust, Cole opened the ramp. Nari trotted up first, tail flicking once, as she disappeared inside. Saela paused at the threshold. She glanced back toward the city beyond the cliffs. I used to dream of standing in the speaker's hall, she said softly. Of wearing the gold veil, of hearing the ancestors chant my name. Cole looked at her. Do you regret it? She shook her head. No. But I mourn the version of me that thought she had to earn their approval. He reached into a side pocket and pulled out a cloth-wrapped bundle. I made you something. She raised an eyebrow. Should I be worried? Cole grinned. Probably. She unwrapped the cloth slowly. Inside, barely held together, was a toasted flatbread, messily packed with fried greens, heatroot, and a smear of violet paste. Saela stared at it. You cooked? Cole nodded. It's not sacred, but it's food, and it's for you. Saela looked at him, then down at the sandwich. After a pause, she took a bite. I've had worse, she said. I'll take that as a compliment. She turned toward the pilot's seat. Then let's go somewhere they don't care who you share breath with. Cole followed her inside. Anywhere in particular? Saela smiled. Someplace with better food, with... The stars looked sharper from outside the system. Cole Maddox leaned back in the pilot's seat and let his eyes follow the slow drift of unfamiliar constellations. The ship hummed around him, old but alive. The kind of ship that had scars and stories, not chrome and polish. He liked that about it. It felt honest. Saela Vireth sat cross-legged in the co-pilot's chair, her robe traded for worn travel gear. No caste marks, no headset. Just her. She'd cut her hair since the exile. Shorter now, cleaner, like a weight had been lifted. Her face looked different too. Not softer exactly, just freer. They hadn't spoken in a while. Not out of tension, out of peace. It had been 6 days since they left Nyviran space. 6 days since Saela gave up her name. 6 days since Cole had watched her speak with absolute conviction and not once hesitate to stand beside him. Now, for the first time since the trial, he felt the quiet settle into something almost like belonging. Saela broke the silence first. Do you regret it? Cole didn't have to ask what she meant. No. Not even a little? He turned his head to look at her. I lost nothing I ever needed. Saela nodded slowly. That's what I keep telling myself. Cole said, Is it working? Not yet, she admitted. But it might. The ship beeped gently. Navigation alert. They were nearing the edge of the drift. Beyond that was true free space. No mapped territories, no patrols, no politics, only possibility. Cole leaned forward and keyed in the next set of coordinates. Saela asked, Where are we heading next? He shrugged. There's a red moon near Oran 12. No settlements, but the system's stable. I figured we'd land there, rest, hunt something local, pretend we're the first ones to ever touch dirt. Saela smiled faintly. I like pretending. You always struck me as a purist, Cole said. I was, Saela admitted, but purists are just people who haven't been broken open yet. He liked that. He didn't say it, but he liked it. From the rear of the cabin, Nari padded in. The guardian cat jumped lightly onto the console and curled up, pressing her body into the heat vent like she belonged there. Her eyes closed slowly, content. Saela reached over and stroked her behind the ears. "She hasn't left my side since the trial," Cole said. "She's yours, bonded or not, she chose you." "She chose us," Saela corrected. Cole nodded. "Even better." A pause. Then Saela asked, "Do you miss Earth?" He thought about that for a moment. "Not really. No family." Cole hesitated. "Not that ever stuck." "Friends?" "A few," he said, "but they all stayed planet-side. I think I always knew I wouldn't." Saela looked over at him. "Then where is home?" He looked at her and didn't blink. "Right now, you." She didn't answer right away. Instead, she turned back to the stars. "I never thought I'd hear someone say that. Not and mean it." "I mean it," Cole said. "Everything before you was survival. Everything since has been choice." Her shoulders shifted subtly, like she'd been holding a tension she didn't even notice. "I keep waiting for it to feel temporary. Like this is all a dream I'm going to wake from, and the caste bell will ring, and I'll be late for my duties." "You're not asleep," Cole said, "and you don't have to earn anything anymore." Saela looked down at her hands. "That's the part I still don't understand." "You will." She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I thought the bond would make everything easier, but it's just made things deeper, heavier." "I know," Cole said, "but I'd rather carry something real than float through empty space pretending I'm weightless." That made her smile. A real one this time. Small, but undeniable. He stood up and walked to the small kitchenette on the right wall. It was barely functional, just a heating coil, a water pump, and a tiny freezer locker. He rummaged through a container until he found what he was looking for, a folded foil packet. "I have a surprise," Cole said. Saela raised an eyebrow. "Should I be concerned?" He shook his head. "Not this time." He unwrapped the foil and revealed 2 small flatbreads, sloppily filled, a little crushed from being packed too long, but warm. "I made us dinner," Cole said. Saela laughed once. "Again?" "I'm practicing," he said. "I thought if we're going to build a life, I should at least be decent at feeding us." She took one of the flatbreads and held it in both hands. "Is this supposed to be symbolic?" "Not unless you want it to be," Cole said. "No blessings required." She considered that, then said softly, "Actually, may I offer one?" Cole nodded. "Of course." Saela closed her eyes. Her voice was low, gentle, nothing ceremonial, just words. "May this meal remind us that survival is not the same as living, and that what we build in exile is not less sacred just because it was chosen freely." When she opened her eyes again, Cole was watching her closely. "Was that a real rite?" he asked. "No," Saela said. "That one was mine." He smiled. "Then it's the only kind I'll eat by." They sat together in the cockpit, eating quietly, watching the stars pass like falling embers through the viewport glass. After a while, Saela leaned her head against his shoulder. Cole wrapped an arm around her and let his breath match hers. Outside the ship, starlight stretched across the void, untamed, unmeasured, and entirely their own, and for the first time neither of them wondered what they had lost, because they knew exactly what they had found.